Okay, so I got a weird story time from the California desert. As a son of the desert over here, I'm always going out to the Joshua Tree, Death Valley, places like that. So this is a Death Valley story I heard around a campfire. Uh, it's a composite of probably different things that actually go on out there, which I'll tell you at the end. I didn't believe it. I thought it was just a crazy story, but at the end when I started seeing these actual devices they were describing, like on social media and stuff, it was like maybe this is true. Anyway, here's the story. So this guy was saying he stumbled across like an Area 51 type spot, right? And like you know somebody. All these guys swarmed him and like, hey, get out of here. This is government property. And the men in black showed up and all this stuff. And then he said, he was the charmer. So he was like, he started talking to the men in black, and first they were real stiff, and then he actually won them over, and they were like laughing it up with him, talking about, telling him all these secrets. That was his story, right? So you're like, okay, yeah, I've heard this kind of stuff before in California and stuff, and Nevada, and all throughout the culture of RVers and YouTubers and everything. I've heard these kind of stories, right? So it switches over, that he actually had a device that he said the Men in Black gave him, and I go, let me see this, it looked kind of impressive. It's like something like we could come up with to nowadays, but I hadn't seen it, that much. But it was like you had these headphones, you put into it, and it had these certain beats, and it wasn't connected to the internet or anything. It was just like a box. And this is probably like from the early 2000s, maybe the 2010s, but the tech was like okay, but it wasn't like connected to the internet or anything. You could only get those from there. And he's like, yeah, they trade these things, the Men in Black, and you hypnotize yourself, and you can manifest anything, and you get all these special powers if you're guided through different things like the gateway process and the Monroe Institute tapes and other people's certain tapes while you're connected to this gear. So the gear looked pretty cool, and then he said, so he had a bunch of these things. He was buddying it up with the Men in Black, and he was hanging out in the desert in the middle of nowhere. They're like, go ahead. We got. I think they even gave a camera that was inside of his car the whole time. He said, "Oh, the Men in Black take my things and everything, and my SD cards, and that's the whole thing, right?" And so he's like, so he's telling me, this machine, it's really amazing, and this and that. And I think I might have one around here somewhere, but it basically is like a sound light machine, they call it. And I'll put a link in the comments of where you can actually get one. It's very interesting. The tech, it actually shines in your eyes, and puts you into different brain states, whether the gamma is more like a high function problem solving state, then beta is still a hyperactive state where you have high energy mentally, and then you could actually see these things and you could follow them through like a Muse headset or any other biofeedback device, and you understand what brainwave you're in, and those goggles actually will put you closer to that brainwave, even all the way to delta, which is sleep, into theta, which is more spiritual. So these different brain states that put you in, and he had all this gear, and so he's like, yeah. So I had all this gear, and I didn't want to carry it around because I was going places. I didn't want to guard it, and it was pretty cool though. I used it for a long time, and I met this other guy, and this other guy said he had that stuff in the army, and the guy in the army, like, he had that whole get up, the setup and everything, and he's like, that's like my religion now. And he pointed to this guy, and who was talking in a military voice. It's really kind of creepy, but he's telling all this spiritual advice. He's like, you are more than your physical body, and he's like a military guy, and he was saying all this like really weird stuff, and it was called the gateway process, and he had that like all in this one little unit. And like this was like in the 1990s, 80s, he was describing it, and then they had better ones that came out, and only like certain like people in the inn, that's like their religion kind of thing, you know. And when those religious cults pop up, you know, men in black type, you know, operatives go and intercept them, you know. And so he was like saying he was one of those operatives and stuff, you know. And then like he, you know, was out with these people, and like everything was cool. And he met like this really like, you know, kind of cute girl, he said, you know, and they were vibing and everything. And then she said she knew about that gateway process thing, you know, like the whole thing, you know, the whole like, you know, the government magic type stuff, you know. And so this guy was like saying, oh well, yeah, so like, do you know about the light things? And he had that whole setup still, but he didn't want to lug it around because he was backpacking and stuff, you know. I mean, he was traveling light. He already had all his mind, you know. He had all his powers and stuff, is the way he described it, you know. So he's like, I don't even need these devices for now. I'll just get a better one when I get back, you know. Because this guy, he's the kind of guy who just like buys what he wants and has all this stuff. So anyway, the story continues. It goes on, and it ends up that he actually likes that girl so much, and he believes in her so much, or whatever he said. I think he had a crush on her or something. So he gave her this light, all this gear, and then she developed all these superpowers and started like a cult, and you know, like had all these minions, you know, these men that she entangled in her web with her psychic powers she got from her CIA magic gear, you know. And it was like, you know, I was like, come on, this sounds like a fantastic story. He did have a cool setup though, you know. It looked good. I mean, I saw some pretty cool tech from this guy, but I was like, I don't know if this is really legit. But then I went online, and you'll see below in the thing about, you know, all these things do exist, and it's kind of like hidden technology, and it is kind of spiritual, and it's an interesting subject that I want to get more into. And the story continues where, you know, I'll go into other parts. It just goes on and on where you know, it's hilarious how you know, this guy, you know, he didn't know what he was doing, what he was giving. And I was like, you know, where's this girl? There is an actual girl that could fit that description, that does have one of those devices. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to say who they are, but, you know, uh, I think there are some people, and you know, that do use those things, and it's really like, you know, they're almost like a pirate Scientologist or something. I don't know, but I mean, I don't think Scientology has anything to do with those things, because maybe they don't like them. I don't know, but we'll see. It's a fascinating subject that I've ran across here, of people using technology to get more spiritual, and government programs to actually, you know, reach spirits and things like that. So more to come on this. I hope you're interested. I don't know what we can even call the subject yet, but I'm doing this mostly for the light sorcery group. You know, for me and Alfredo, we're starting like a new group. So I want to talk more about these kind of subjects, and see if it makes sense to people, because there is some, you know, there is some really interesting stuff out here, and it's mostly science based. You know, there's not a lot of spiritual, but it is really magical. It's you know, and I don't even know if you want to call it chaos magic. It's more like psychological technology, you know, and your ability to just, you know, to blend in and charm people and stuff like that. But there's ups and downs, and I think we'll get into all that as the story continues.